Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Today is the 9th July and the day of the Eid is about to come. Today, I would like to understand the slaughterhouse issues in the Pakistan. The concept of the slaughterhouses in the Pakistan and the public of default within their houses. That what they are doing within their houses. The concept of the slaughterhouses in the Pakistan and the defaulted public outside the Pakistan and the COVID-19 virus and a lot of similar viruses in the Pakistan. When I just observe these issues as a local and special immigrant under the issues of the resolved matter of the same, I just observed that the baseline issues of the Pakistanis, which I observe by myself, that the concept of the public at default under the Eid ul Azha, that which sort of the concept of the derailing of the slaughterhouse wastage issues would be observed in the whole of the central focal areas of the Pakistan and the local areas of the Pakistan. I observed these factors by myself then that I'm observing that the poor public, the so-called poor public, outside their houses, you can observe that is found as to declinizing the state property, and they are not in the positions to clean the same. In fact, the Republicans are default, and they are enjoying Eid ul Isha because they don't know the COVID-19 virus outrage in the whole of the central limits of the Punjab. They don't have any idea about that. They're idiots, and all of them are found as to enjoying of the multiple social defluxed amounts of the outrage, intellectual, non-intellectual understanding as well. So the my concept is very reserved with myself, that when I just observe that the a lot of the you can say that a lot of animals outside your houses, you can observe them, that those animals skins and layers would be thrown out in the whole of the gutters of the Pakistan as per my observation, and I just observed this fact by myself then. When I just observe these factors, that the whole of the central divisional residency of the Pakistan are profound as to in the positions to uh, manhandle the whole of the Lahore, and they are not in the position, especially, and this applies in the whole of the central areas of the same as well. The concept of the females transportation, the concept of the females trafficking, the offense of the already transported females, and thereby, when I just observe a lot of the individuals outside the central division benches of the same, then I observe a very deep point of the same, that these psychotropic disordered Republicans, Pakistani, they're bastard psycho females. They, after transporting and trafficking their females, 91.2% individuals at default are performed in this offense. When I just observed that the COVID-19 and the other viruses are raising and amounting very highly, the perceived of the concept of the decentralization of their fabricated females, which they sell under the constructive negation of religious transaction, is another sector which I observe by myself every day and every night within my room. I just confine myself in order to understand that why the Pakistanis are self beating, self celebrating their sense of the poison, which they have no point of the relationships, because they the question of the artificially maintained mandate of the same is a question now. The answers of the same would be revoked. But when I just apply the whole of the depiction of the true facts, that which sort of the criminal activities are maintained by the Pakistani, then it comes before me that the 95% of them are not in the positions to observe any sector The sectarian hate and the Muslims deferred every sort of acting, and the concept of the fabricating of the a lot of the transmissions which have no weightage, and the commands of the rules and the under no point of the dictum of the same. In fact, the subject consignment of the same as well. I just applied and I just observed these issues as per the constitutional consignment of my observation, and the concept of the dark observation is always a reminder to myself. They are in the habit of the coast negation. I always remember this point that the coast negation is another too aggressive one. The concept of the selling of the nothing to the other side and expecting it to be their public servant, their private servant. These motherfuckers are in this problem. The 95% Pakistani residency are charged with the criminal heinous offenses because of their nature of their rotation in the bad moods to the bad disorder, and trying to convince the other one to be fool to remain fool. Yes, they expect it. And then what I confined with myself, that I just observed that the Pakistanis are in the positions to snatch the rights of the other in the name of the Islam. This is a disease in Pakistani blood cell, to snatch the right of the other, and after that raising the Islam and Islam over and over from their females. They bastard criminal Pakistani, 91% in Pakistan, always found in this offense as per my observation. First, they stroke their females, and after that, stroking their females in the name of religion, they expect the modesty in the name of no religion. First, you stroke your bastard criminal females, and after that, you said to me, the lordship, that you were the person who is not willing to convince the person. When you were not in the position, then why you were in the positions to observe the issues of your surrounding is a question now. The landmark obligation which rotate in my observation order while observing myself, that the self consignment of the confined places, the self consignment of the confined places, and the Pakistan is a tool which is all ready and always in the mood to fabricate the laws to the other sides. I observe the factor of the deconceptualization as my keen observations are very dark. So the COVID-19 virus is out there. The other a lot of viruses are out there, but the Republicans are not in the mood to observe the same. They are in the position to enjoy their double penetration offense. The Pakistani, after eating pills, after enjoying Eid in the name of Islam, are trying to enjoy the Eid ul Adha. 91.5% are in this offense. They try to deal with the other person by dealing with their nerves. They try to control everything which they don't have from anyone. They try to beat the odds, but they don't face the values of the face recognition of their self. Now, is a question which the Pakistani child birth ratio is objected as well. I deconcept and I just observe these issues by myself every night inside my rooms and outside my rooms. Whenever I just try to observe the issues of the self-confined places of the Republicans into the constructive explanatory issues of the same, then the concept of the female selling in the name of the religion is a tool in Pakistan which is not being observed by any Pakistan itself, in the Darul Iman, in the NGOs, in the ED center, and those groups of the females. I always feel very sorrowful when I observe these females, that those females were and are being abandoned by their parents, and those females are being abandoned by their deflected religious and civil defected individual as well. When I just observed that the sex stroking issues in the Pakistan, and observing no law, no Islam, and selling the same Islam to the other person is a tool which is Pakistan is confined in this offense. 99% Pakistanis are in this offense, that after selling off their sexual urges, they just sell Islam in the hate speech. I'm not willing to understand such religious means. No. The concept of the articulating those issues is not a question which I configure by myself. The self-regulatory issues of the central negated Pakistani. I am observing these issues while facing these issues that they have and had originated a lot of the females in the defection clauses under the Guardian de facto. So I apply to them the Article 184 Clause 1 so that the penalty of their capital stock inventory would be charged and they would be led into the gutters of the public like the dogs, and with their animals their bodies should be sealed out, because these individuals are not in the positions to observe the issues of anyone. They are in the positions to confine the issues of the others to themselves. I'm totally out of my senses that while they were in the positions to confine the self confinement to the others in the name of the religion is another oppressive tool in the Pakistan by the so called religious deferred individuals. I observed that, and I'm still observing these bastards. So the concept of the issues of the Pakistani while having the observation order, as per the confinement of myself, that they follow the self-confined religious transactions in order to abstain from the uh, special modes of assessment to the character in soul. When I apply myself in the room, they were in the habit of the course negation to myself, and now they are into the habit of the their females are in the always in the mood to fight to the other side after having an amount of the neglected sexual relationships, and those relationships which are motivated by the sexual consignment of the observation of the same in fact is not a question now. The subjective task obligatory matter, which is not being confined to the self assessment of the mode of double penetration of the reflected females' defection clauses, while the constitutional mandate is an observation order. So the 91% is not is in the positions to observe the self confined religious deferred transaction, and the remainder group is in the position. So, what to expect out of both are is a question now. While I was in the position and I'm trying to self optimize the issues of the local residency as to expand myself, while I was always and I'm always trying to observe myself in this hot weather. But the problem of the slaughterhouses appear to be the next in Pakistan. Now, the Eid ul Izha is ahead. We all acknowledge this fact at law by ourselves, but the question of the Eid ul Izha is not a question. The question of the garbage and the wastage of the same product is the issue which is not being recognized by the secondary and the primary residential mediums of the Pakistan. So I expand my thought that the government of the Pakistan under the federal laws should have to make an SRO to promulgate the local employers and the employees into the public sector to dispose of the public wastage into the dictum of the solutions by the restoration of the human peace in the mind, because I'm suffering from the garbage of the public. My neurons and my proteins bodies are being deflected by the so much you can say that the deflected and conclusive piece of the observation as well. The concept of the garbage and the Eid ul Izha, both sectors are opposite, and I observe the factor. So, if you are having an oxygenated body oriented in yourself, then you confine with yourself, then the question is not in the question of observation to yourself, is the question now. I observe by myself then that the self orientated, the demotivated, and the overpopulated individuals 91.5% in the derogatory remarks to their surrounding in the peace value, in the face value, and then the devalued property and the income expenses charge flows are in the positions in order to curtail the miseventualities of their surrounding by the utmost desirous opinions of the same in the subject of the confined reflected matter. The question of the lordship of this, that you observe the lordship by yourself, then the tenant and the tenancy and the concept of the rent controller in an abrogated issue. The issues of the rent controller code in the Pakistan is a secondary point during the Eid ul Azha. And the question of the cantonment board observation is another issue that is not being confined and self-confined by the other party. So the rest of them are in the positions to observe the best of their surrounding. I just always confine myself as to observe myself. Then the Sankhya observation of the same is a question of the valued observations and the judgments in the narrations to the subjected individuals as to confine their souls into the perfect mode of the confinement. When I just apply the whole of the rotation of the impeachment to the neutral uh, meanwhile and mean area of the Pakistan, I come up with the next thought that slaughterhouses issues in the Pakistan raised the slaughterhouse issues in the Pakistan raised by the Pakistani, and they are not in the positions to observe the same. In fact, and when the slaughterhouses are raised and the Pakistanis are enjoying, it means that they are and they were devalued from every sector of their life, and they are not in the positions to observe their self. While they were not in the positions to observe anyone, why they were in the positions to insult the other person, why they are always narrating their self narrations to the other, why they are self explanations to the other, while they are not working for the other and explaining the issues of their self to the other. These are the phrases questions which are not recognized by any Pakistan. In Pakistan, they are in the positions to observe the non-slaughtered issues as well. I always said that the slaughterhouses issues in the Pakistan should be accompanied by the government of the Pakistan under the governance rules, but the Pakistanis are not in the position. The Pakistanis are in the opposition of the letters and spirits of the Sunnah and Islam, and the concept of the same is a question now. The factors of the elemented question is not a question in the toolbox of the Islam and the religion as well. It is my personal observation that might be perfect and wrong as well. The concept of the public opinion imposter. When I just observed that the ultimate hate speech is a concept which is not being recognized, the constructive family hate speech in Pakistan is raising. They are in the positions while raising the family hate speech constructive elements. While I will apply to them Police Order 2002, their asses will be burned. All of them, all of the Pakistani, I'll apply them. Police Order 2002, Chapter 5, Police Rules 1937, and they will be burned in the jail, and they don't have any idea regarding the effect of raising up and shrinking up their females while the subordination of the same fact. So when they are not in the positions to interpret the right of the family and subordinate, why the hell they are raising the Islam to the other person is a question now. I asked everyone around myself that why they are raising the slogan of their conservative souls, which are out and they are not in the positions to observe anyone. Their self declined every sector is not in the position, and they are selling every phraseology to the lordship. I'm not willing to understand anyone beside myself now. The concept of their self, their females, their dirty males, 91.5%, their deferred amounts of every transaction, their transcripted transmissions of the religious midnight is not an obligation which I observe under the civil perjury. So when the Pakistanis are in the civil perjury and they expect the modesty out of the public town is a question now in the subjected matter which is not being addressed by any Pakistani in their houses. I'm always confined with myself, but the public don't like it. They don't like the other persons to be self-confined, but they want to control the self-confined person by raising the slogan of their task manipulated soul. I'm observing these factors by myself. Their youngsters, their students, their children, their subordinate reproduction are not in the positions to observe the physical incapacities of the same. In fact, the concept of the derailing of the females, right, in the question which is not addressed by any Pakistani by their meanwhile youth at fiscal default. They expand their youth at a fiscal default, and they expected the modesty of the same in the town of the customs, in the precedence of the local residency as well. So I'm not just observing these narrative facts. I have self-experienced these issues by myself in the courts and the other subordinate areas. That's why I'm just expansion in the area of myself. I observe their females, their males, which are not in the cost productive educational means. I observe these factors. I narrate to them that you have to be very devastated with the facts of the observation order. But despite of that, what their females are confined with the consignment of their neglected souls. So this is called win-win position. The concept of the intellectual property rights and the concept of the registration act and the concept of the other laws in the Pakistan via the CPC, the code of the civil procedure is the law which is not being upheld by any party in the Pakistan. But despite of all these misdemeanor in the Pakistan, the concept of the ultimate advanced females outburst in the Pakistan is a concept which is not adjusted by the either side by themselves. And you can observe that a person who is not who is a secondary person or primary person, a layman, is not in the positions to observe to run the fisca matter of its houses. The concept of shrinking to the others and not to be observant of the same is a question which a Pakistan is not in the positions to observe. The question of the self-observant and the self-optimal and the self-confined, and you can assume that consumption of the matter, that the concept of the ultimate aggression into the hate speech and expecting it to be the culture of the Islam is not a question in my eyes. I'm not observing these issues. So these are the issues which I just reflects from this video, that the Pakistani, because you can observe that I'm a bit aggressive as to expanding expansion of my words, but when I observe that the Republicans, while always into the twice habits of course negating to their souls, they are always into the habit of the coast deflects coast transporting to themselves. They are all the most often of the times in the habit of the insult or embarrass themselves, and they are in the habit of the confinement of their public veracity, and they are always they never consider the other persons to be human, and they always try to convince the other persons to get human with their self in association. When the other person is not in the mood to relocate themselves, they try to embezzle their memories as well. This is the public issue with the Pakistanis. They self-confined. I That's why I'm always saying that the NAB ordinance, every Pakistani should suffer NAB ordinance and FIA rules and the other subordinate rules, so that their bodies will be understood by the laws of the land. I always said that when I will apply all the laws over their bodies, their body will be depluxed out of the gutters, and I know that. So the consignment of the self-observation of the orders of the Pakistanis, that after surrendering an amount of the sexual years and fiscal defected, their females are stinking in the public gutters, and their males are selling their females. And after selling off the dispossession of their males, 91.5% females of the Pakistan are charged in this offense, and their mothers and their parents are in this offense as well. And the public is trying to tranquilize with the Eid ul Izha. Tranquilize means that to uh, constructively the make dirty the whole of the central division of the Lahore while just observing these issues. The concept of the derailing of the justice in Pakistan is an object which I just observe every day, every night, outside my house as well. The concept of the thieves in the Pakistan, the concept of the not observing the intellectual, the understandings and the best observation judgments, the concept of them, that they collectively and collaterally are not in the positions to observe anyone's issues, and they just confine to consignment of the observation of the inside of their own souls by having no proper reflected methods of the coast reconciled methods as well. And the economist in the Pakistan, the observation of the same is a question which is not consigned by the economist as well. The other departments are not in the positions to observe the self-regulated laws of the same. The females are not in the position, and the males are not in the position, and the other genders are not in the position, but the self derailed individual of the Pakistan are trying to beat the odds by having no point off. Their children, adolescents are in the positions to selling off the other ordinary products, and they are not collectively part the operative the part of the governance in any sector, and they are very proud of their lives. I'm always try to observe these points by observing no point of their lives, that why they are born in the surface over the surface of the Pakistan, what they are doing with the Pakistan, what they are selling to the other person. The question now which they have to be very reserved within their self, which they are not doing, and then when the other person is not interested in their words in their psyche, then they are just. And the secondary issue which in the Pakistanis are facing is the water issue, and the Pakistanis are not recognizing those issues. So I'm trying to civil interpretation of the Pakistan, but the Pakistanis are not in the positions to observe the same. In fact, that the water issues in the Pakistan and the subdivisional areas of the provincial autonomies of the Pakistan, and the concept of the not observing the same, in fact, is a question now. The concept of not observing the same water issues and walking issues and talking issues, and how to read or write, and how to stay off from the other side, and how to hate the other, and how to rotate with other, and how to just observe the non-observation, perfection observation of the other as well. So my concept, which I observe by myself, that Pakistan is after expansion of their lives into the wrong directions. Likewise, minus 45 degree, they expect it to be 90 degree over the shoulder of the others, and such person is have no interest from the same. In fact, and this habit in the Pakistan is in 99.9% in the bodies, and that's the way these individuals live their life because of their non-observation of their self physical observations and sleeping and eating and working domains of the Pakistanis. They expect modesty out of the public gutters, and the slaughterhouses are not being compiled. I appeal to the governors that make slaughterhouses so that the public will not lay off the gutter, because the water which would be in the gutter, the public will have over their self during the usage of the, because Pakistan have no area, because the blood will be declined in the blood in the water and in the other places, which will replace the areas of the viruses, constructive viruses. And Pakistanis are so habitual with the viruses that they don't feel anything after having the viruses in their bodies and trying to beat the other bodies. And after saying that, sorry, we were not aware of your rights. This is a favorite game of a central Pakistani and subdivisional Pakistani, that not to observe the other, but to always try to emerge with the other. I'm not willing to understand anyone beside myself. Have a good day, King.